Hello, my fellow writers. I'm the Pen Mother, and today we are going to talk about beginnings. Actually, one beginning in particular. If you haven't seen Back to the Future, the classic Robert Zemeckis film starring Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly, then I'm not sure what to say here. I mean, I get it. I actually haven't seen half as many films or TV shows as I probably should have, especially considering what I do for a living. But still, it's Back to the Future. But not to worry, because the only thing I'm going to be spoiling is the first scene, which will hardly spoil anything at all. Back to the Future is widely regarded as a classic, and much of its praise comes from the fantastic story. I mean, as story structure goes, Back to the Future does it right. It's also funny and heartfelt and charming and exciting and fun to watch. But we're not going to talk about any of that. We're only going to talk about the first moments. You can definitely make the argument that the first few moments of a film and the first few pages of a novel are the most important. If you can't grab your audience within the first few minutes, if you can't give them an idea of what they can expect from your work, you will lose them very quickly. If you're a screenwriter, then the first 10 pages of your screenplay will make or break a sale. And I would wager that the first page of any screenplay is the most important page of the entire script. The first page tells the reader whether you know what you're doing or not, and it entices the reader to keep reading. So, Back to the Future. What is the opening scene of this movie? Clocks. Well, duh, you think. It doesn't take a super genius to guess that the opening image of a movie about time travel should be clocks. But here's a kicker. In early drafts of the script, the opening image was not clocks. The opening image originally took place at Marty's school. It was a countdown for a nuclear detonation. Okay, interesting. That script page, when you consider what happens in the first act, kind of makes sense. But clocks makes much more sense because this isn't a story about nuclear annihilation. It's a story about time travel and turning back the clock. Okay, so it's not just one clock either, it's dozens of clocks. And the clocks aren't just ordinary clocks, they're weird clocks, old clocks, cat clocks, guy hanging off the minute hand clocks. And as all the clocks go off at the same time, we see that all these weird clocks are in a weird room with an even stranger Rube Goldberg device that appears to be running through the motions of a person getting ready for the day. Making toast and coffee and feeding the dog and turning on the news. But whoever lives here hasn't been here in a while and forgot to turn the machine off because it's pouring dog food into an overflowing bowl of dog food, and it's burning the toast, and it's spilling the coffee. The newscast on the TV that turns on tells us that a suitcase full of plutonium has been stolen and that Libyan terrorists are suspected of stealing it. And then we see a door open and a pair of tennis shoes on a skateboard roll in. The shoes hop off the skateboard, which continues to roll across the floor and under an unmade bed. Under the bed is a suitcase full of plutonium. How about that for a first page? Do you see how much information is crammed into that first minute or so of film? My goodness. Someone who is obsessed with time, a contraption that was left to run without its inventor, missing plutonium, Libyans, a dog even, and someone who is young and spry enough to ride a skateboard. Now listen. Do you have to have such a revelatory and appropriate first image or first page? Can you open on just a cityscape? People use this a lot. Can the first chapter of your novel be some important piece of backstory? Sure, you can write whatever you want. But I would encourage you to pick up the books and the movies and even the television shows you love best. Most of the time, the writers of the most popular and successful stuff make an effort to tell you something important in the first few seconds, the first line, the first page of the project. Clocks. Not just any clocks, crazy clocks, because Back to the Future is a crazy adventure about messing with time. So, what's your first moment? What is the first thing we need to know about your story? How can you use the first few seconds to draw us in, pique our curiosity, and launch us on your grand adventure? How do you begin?